Hello Blazers, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian. How guys doing today? Welcome to a brand new video, and in today's video guys, we're going to be once again addressing hater comments. Well, not really, because what I want to do in this video is actually react to a certain sentiment that I've noticed in my YouTube comments lately, which is actually part of a way bigger problem. And I'm talking about Westerners who come on my channel, see what I'm doing, see that I'm not a fan of Putin and the Russian government, and since these people have a pretty unfavorable opinion of Russia overall, they come on my videos and comment things along the lines of, "Great videos, bro. You're one of the good Russians." Yeah guys, if only I got $1 for every single time that I've gotten a comment which says, "I thought all Russians were terrible people and basically subhuman orcs who cannot, have free speech or democracy ever because they just have an inherent gene of slavery in them." However, now that I saw your videos, I know there's at least one good Russian out there. And look, here's the thing, I understand that a lot of the time these people are trying to make a compliment, and yes, I am trying to show to the world that a lot of Russians are actually normal, peace-loving people that just want a decent life. I do not want to be prided over other people in my ethnicity. And to be quite honest, comments like these are pretty concerning to me because they show a bigger issue. And the issue is that not only is this take sort of fascist, but also it plays directly into Russian propaganda and sort of helps the Russian regime. Wanna find out how? Keep watching. First of all, let's talk about what it feels like to receive one of those comments as a Russian person. I mean, I don't really see these comments saying, you're one of the good ones, you're one of the good Russians, as particularly complimentary, because these comments have an underlying idea of Russians being somehow inferior to any other nation, and that I, a person who's quote-unquote adopting the Western beliefs, have somehow ascended being a regular Russian, and I'm one of the good ones now. It's a really backhanded compliment, really, because it doesn't just say that I'm a good guy, but it also says that my family, my friends, my whatever, everybody who I know in Russia is somehow inferior to me, and they're actually a level below me as far as their humanity goes, which is, just a worldview I'm not going to subscribe to. So yeah, it's a bit insulting. It honestly kind of reminds me of the situation with Kanye West when he endorsed Trump and other conservative speakers, and later when he wore a White Lives Matter shirt and said that he likes Hitler on a podcast. All the racists just started coming out of the woodworks and saying, that Kanye is one of the good ones. I don't usually like this rap crap, but that Kanye guy is speaking facts, he's one of the good ones. With the underlying assumption here, of course, being that the majority of rappers of the black community do not support Hitler, or with the assumption that the majority of Russians who do not fit in the category of a few good Russians actually are all Z-spouting, Putin supporting, Ukraine hating, just inbred morons. And the thing is, I thoroughly believe that this worldview of grouping every single Russian person together and assuming that Russian people inherently have a certain worldview that is inherently worse than any other worldview, essentially assuming that all of Russia are 100% in the support of the special military operation because they are predisposed to it, is a very popular view right now in the West, and it's actually, ironically enough, a worldview that plays right into Russian propaganda. Personally, I think most of this stems from this sort of concept of Russian mentality. Russians have a particular certain view of their own mentality that actually a lot of the time coincides with the Western view. Because from what I'm seeing, the majority of Westerners think that Russians are essentially a people who have never had democracy. Westerners love to say that Russia is a nation that has authoritarianism in its core, and that all Russians want really is just to have an emperor, a tsar to bow down to. And of course, if you go even deeper into the echo chambers of Reddit and Twitter, to the most insane fringe communities, there's gonna be people saying that Russians are basically all inherently slaves, so have a certain gene of slavery in their blood, that Russians are people that are not fit to live in a European society because they're not European and they're actually not even white. Yeah guys, this might sound ridiculous, but these are takes I see all the time, and it's very clear who the people spreading these takes are, because apparently to these people being non-white is inferior to being white, which is kind of crazy, right? And this idea of Russian mentality a lot of the time is spread by Russians as well, saying essentially that there's no reason to resist or try to protest or anything because the majority of our people are just fine with the way things are and they just can't understand that it could be better. And there's quite a big chunk of disgruntled Russian opposition that has exactly the same take of, our protests are failing, so it's better to just leave the country and, just let it rot because, those people, they will never understand the virtues of freedom and democracy that we're trying to bring to them because they're mentally inferior. Whereas I don't think that's true, because I don't really think mentality is a real thing. I mean guys, tell me this, does North Korea and South Korea have different mentalities? People love to say that Russians are living in authoritarian states state because they love it. Well, tell me about North Korea and South Korea. What is it exactly so different about the mentality of the North Korean people compared to the South Korean people? Are those different nations? Do North Korean people have an inherent gene of slavery in their blood? I don't think so. I think the system is just set up in a way where these people grow up in particular circumstances that lead them to behave a certain way, and those circumstances severely influence their mindset, their view of the world, their political beliefs, of course with means of censorship, strict control, and repressions. And as a result, North Koreans live in a vastly different society compared to that of South Korea. So the point that I'm trying to make is that I believe mentality is sort of a myth, or at least it is not innate. And the funniest thing is, right, is that this mentality excuse is used by pro-Russian propaganda to sort of excuse Russia's lack of freedom of speech or political freedom. Now, the audio in the clips that I'm gonna show you is gonna be voiced over by me because apparently some Russian and Ukrainian journalists don't know what fair use is. What do you think of Putin in the year 2018? Well, I don't have a particular opinion. He exists. He exists, and do you like him? Do you dislike him? That's the wrong way of putting it. He must be looked at as a function. And how well does he perform his function? His performance is optimal for the majority of people in this country. And what about you? Well, for me, the right thing to do is to stick my tongue up my ass and to just admire. Just to admire because I respect the choice of my people. And why do you have to shut the hell up? Because I shouldn't go against my own people. The people live for this. They are happy. This is what the people want. Full stop. Do not go against your own people. Sergey, this is eloquent and all, but you're just trying to hide your cowardice. Why are even you afraid? Look, Sergey, I'm not trying to ask you to change your views or anything. I am not afraid, I just don't want to look like an idiot. You should never go against your own people, you know? Never. It's just really dumb to do. This is pretty much a textbook example of this sort of ironic postmodern view of Russian society that's spread by Russian propaganda, essentially making people believe that the lack of freedoms in the country is actually the choice of the people and their will, and that criticizing this lack of freedom actually makes you go against the people, because this is the will of the people after all, when it's not. It's just some garbage that people have been slowly pressured into in a span of several decades. This trope of saying that Russia doesn't need democracy and Russian people are happy living the way they are, and that democracy will just never work in Russia because the people are just not fit for it. This point has been used by Kremlin pundits for the last 20 years to justify what is going on and to try convince the Russian people themselves that yes, maybe we are not fit for democracy, maybe we should not try resisting, and maybe we should not try doing anything. In fact, as far as different sources claim, Putin himself appears to think the same. This was when Schroeder came to Russia, and he used to visit very often, and they went on a visit to a cathedral. I was at Putin's place and they were there. So he comes back later and he tells me, hey, why do you always keep going on about people's rights, freedoms, democracy, etc., this and that? And he says, do you know where we were at today? We arrive and there's like 50,000 people in the square, completely just cramped. And the cops are there, trying their hardest to hold the crowd, barely managing to do so. So I ask him, seriously? Are they really like trying to attack you like that? And he says, no, they're not attacking, they're kissing my hands. And all at the same time, the police just beating those people with batons, kicking them, trying to keep them away. And at the same time, while getting beaten, they're trying to grab my hands and are kissing them. Incredible. And he says, you keep talking about democracy, but they need a Tsar. They want a Tsar. They want a Tsar, and whatever you're saying is completely wrong. Essentially thinking that Russian people only deserve a Tsar and an emperor, and turning his perverse vision of reality into political reality of millions of people. So the point that I'm making is that if you're trying to group the entirety of Russian people into a sort of one amorphous substance that has no willpower and has no real needs other than bow down to a Tsar or whatever, you're pretty much literally spreading Russian propaganda, because that is what Russian propaganda wants people to believe. People act according to their availability of information, their political freedoms, their freedom of speech, their economic situation, etc, etc, etc. Not because they were born with the wrong mentality or because they were born with a slave gene in their blood or whatever. Yeah guys, I mean, this is the year 2023. I can't believe that I have to make a video in which I explain to people that certain nations of people cannot be considered inferior to other nations. I know, that's a crazy idea. It's not like the world had a conflict that destroyed the lives of tens or hundreds of millions of people last century, where the whole point was that one guy decided that one nation of people was inferior to others. Now usually when people group all Russians together and sort of talk about the Russian people in general all being, you know, terrible pretty much, is the point that the support of the special military operation is overwhelming in Russia, and actually like 80% support everything that's going on. I've already made a pretty detailed video about this a few months back, you should watch it if you haven't, but basically the point is that if we have collectively agreed to never believe any polls that are coming from the Russian government, when the Russian government says that 89% of voters voted for Putin, we laugh it off, but now when Russia does a poll and says that 146% of the population is supporting the special military operation, somehow everybody's like, so true, dude. There's literally no way those poll results are manipulated, and also there's no way that people are just scared to say their real opinion. No way, dude. Russia is a free country after all, so yeah, 80%, yeah. So yeah, guys, I don't usually believe polls that are coming out from the Russian government, but when it fits my narrative, I do. Very nice. Another point that people usually make when grouping all Russians together right now is saying that Russians are basically completely apathetic to what is going on and they're not protesting, there's really no resistance in Russia whatsoever. Well, according to the Russian human rights group, now considered a foreign agent, OVD Info, from January till December of 2022, over 20,000 cases have been started in Russia over essentially criticism of the special military operation. These include arrests at protests, arrests for something said online, something said in real life, etc, and that number is only growing. So yeah, 20,000 arrests, I think that's pretty sizable in my opinion. And yes, you can still make the point that compared to 144 million, way less now because millions of people have left at this point, you could claim that this is a minuscule amount compared to the overall amount of people of Russia. Well, alas, I guess for the numbers to be significant for these keyboard warriors on Reddit, there needs to be like 20 million arrested or something. Which is just like not a realistic scenario at all. Because one thing you gotta realize about Russia right now is that it's not that the people who are not protesting are in support of this. They're just scared to speak their mind because they're afraid of destroying their lives. And again, I realize that everybody is a hero on Reddit or YouTube comments or whatever, but if you really try to put yourself in the shoes of an average person right now in Russia and actually try to understand the risk that you're facing, I just have doubts that you would actually be that brave, to be honest. And huge shocker, guys, most people just try to live their lives, raise their kids, put food on the table. You could claim that it's cowardly or whatever, however the point is that most people just want to keep living their lives, and this has been true for most people in most countries for the history of the entirety of humanity. Please explain to me why people in Eastern Bloc countries like Czech Republic, Poland or Hungary were not able to get rid of the Soviet influence and to kick out the communists before the Soviet Union fell apart completely. I wonder why. Was it the inherent slave gene of these people? No, it was not. It was the political persecution and lack of freedom of speech and very oppressive atmosphere. These people got the chance to have freedom and actually live decent lives. Russians didn't. And that's the major difference. So yeah, the shocking point in this video is that Russians are not inherently inferior to any other nation of people. I know, that's crazy. I can't believe I have to say this in 2023. But yes, guys, believe it or not, thinking that one race or one ethnicity of people is worse than the other is not great. And it's just pretty worrying to me overall because I can definitely notice the overall rise of fascism in the world recently, where far-right fringe extremist groups are becoming more and more popular, and when even people who believe they stand for the values of democracy and freedom end up making the most fascist statements ever. And here's another thing, right? This is a message to the most Western Westerners, right? To those who haven't ever even dealt with the Soviet Union and were not oppressed or occupied by it in any way. It's like literally not even your beef. You have no idea what it's like to grow up in an oppressive country, and you're treating the conflict between Russia and Ukraine as a sort of it's like a game to you guys or something. You're not affected by it in the slightest way, and yet you think you have the audacity to tell people who are risking their freedoms every day how to act, and even making little fruity theories about why this or that nation are slaves and, you know, will never have freedom. Kindly piss off, like, please. What I'm trying to say is that if we actually stand for the principles of democracy and freedom and equality, and if we want to bring that to the majority of the world, if we want to live in a peaceful world, you know, making fascist statements along the lines of this nation of people is just too dumb for democracy or just too dumb to accept our Western values, I just don't think that's a great point to make, to be honest, and you need to reevaluate your worldviews a little bit. And the point of my channel is not to pride myself over other Russians and get a feeling of superiority from Westerners commenting in my videos saying, oh my god guys, this Russian is a really good one, let's not kick his face over a curb, you know? I will of course make fun of Z people and their propaganda, however, once again, I'm not going to claim that I'm somehow better than them and that I'm somehow genetically superior. And another point is that this preferential treatment doesn't actually carry over into real life, because even if I was the kind of person that would pride myself as, you know, being better than any other Russian out there, I have already gotten shit in real life and people basically, you know, acting disrespectfully to me and talking shit to me just because I'm Russian. And it's fine, I'll get over it. But the point is, if this sentiment continues to grow, even if I was the person that was priding myself over other Russians, it's not like I can exactly show a guy my YouTube channel in a fight on the streets and be like, hey bro, I'm actually a good Russian, please don't fucking kick my ass. It does not work that way. I don't claim to be good, I'm just trying to get by in this very tumultuous time right now. I'm trying to do what I can to provide some sort of entertainment and some sort of insight into life in Russia and into Russia for other people, for Westerners. I just hope that brings some good to the world, and I just hope that I get to live a decent life. That's it, that's all I claim to be. And yeah, I just wanted to make this video because, you know, these comments have been kind of getting on my nerves, and like I said, they're part of a way bigger problem. But anyways guys, yeah, hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you guys did, then please make sure to slap that like on it. As well guys, if you want to support me additionally, then go over to the link down in the description. And yeah guys, that is going to be pretty much it for today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.